So I would say trust, flexibility, and focus on outcomes. My name is Alejandro Arango, and I am the head of public relations for Kaspersky. And my team is in charge of external communications, primarily with the press. There has been some adaptation specifically from other team members, people in my team, not necessarily myself. But what I have learned more and more about the situation is you need three things. You need to be flexible, you need to be able to trust your team, and you need to be able to focus on outcomes and not so much on the process. So everybody has a different situation at home. Everybody has a different setup at home. You need to make sure that you're flexible with your team and that you trust them to do the best work possible. And if you do that, hopefully the process will adjust itself and the outcomes will be really, really good. So I would say trust, flexibility, and focus on outcomes. One of the ways that I can illustrate what flexibility means, for example, very recently we had to organize our first international public relations meeting where we have team members from all over the world attend this meeting. Obviously we couldn't do it in person, so we organized it virtually for the first time. And we needed to find times that suited people in Russia, in South America, in Japan, in Malaysia, and in Latin America. It's not easy. You need to find hours where some folks are going to be working very early in the morning and some people are going to be working very late at night. So we started at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, United States time, New York time. And at the same time, it was 11 or 10 or 11 p.m. in Tokyo. So you have to give time for your people to adjust to these things. Of course, you give warning in advance and say, we're going to have this meeting in 2 weeks. Let's find the best possible time frames for everybody, and everybody's going to have to make some adjustments. Some people are going to have to wake up very early, and some people are going to have to go to bed later at night. I think there is definitely some fatigue. It's hard not to get tired of so much news about one topic, and specifically when most of it is very bad, very negative. However, I don't expect that the news cycle is going to slow down anytime soon related to COVID-19. I think we're going to see much more of it. I think that we are going to start seeing a change in the type of news that gets reported as people start getting out of the pandemic. How do we get back to a new normal? And then the ups and downs that are going to come with this very difficult to ride roller coaster. It's difficult. I think the news cycle will continue to be very busy for many months to come related to COVID-19. If we had anything that we could put out to help people protect themselves against cyber criminals, against scams, against phishing, any information we had about protection for medical institutions, we felt it was our responsibility to put that news out. So anything that helps protect people, anything that helps educate people against threats, we absolutely put that news out. The other type of news, of course, is contextual. So anything that has to do with protecting your home office or protecting your children while they are going to virtual school. Any tips, any advice, anything that can help people protect their data and their devices in these new times that we are living, we definitely put information about those topics out there. So anything that helps people, we put it out there. So there is a chance to be a part of the news cycle and the news agenda, but you have to be very, very cautious and very, very sensitive. This is definitely not a time to try to benefit of this horrible situation. Unfortunately, this situation, as a result, will have a lot of journalists without jobs. A lot of media outlets are actually closing. So public relations professionals, communications professionals are going to have to be very sensitive to the fact that there's going to be less media outlets out there to work with and less journalists to work with, because many of them will be out of a job for a long period of time, most likely. So that's one of the things that I think will change. The other thing is with influencers. Before this crisis, influencers were the hottest commodity, let's call it that way. Everybody wants to work with influencers, right? They're getting directly to the publics that we're trying to reach. Well, with this situation, I think that many of those revenue streams that influencers were enjoying are drying up. So maybe there's not going to be that much money invested in influencers, at least in the short term. And based on what I was saying about journalists, some of those journalists themselves will most likely become influencers if they're not influencers already, and they will start to try to start their own media channels, their own media properties. So the boundaries between traditional public relations, social media communications, and influencers is just coming together in a very interesting way. And unfortunately, this situation has just accelerated some of that change. So as communicators, we really need to work very carefully to make sure that we're reaching the right audience through the right channels. It's basic stuff, but obviously with how the environment is changing, we also have to adapt the way we work. And again, one of the most important things here is to have multiple sources of information. What does that mean? If you hear something, if you see something from somebody, the best thing to do is to go and check other sources, correct? And if you find commonality among those sources and what is being reported, and if you trust some of those sources, then that hopefully becomes reality. So people also have to be very educated, knowledgeable about the type of information they consume. It's very important that we find trusted sources and that we're able to make the best possible decision on the information that we see in those different channels.